Good morning. I am District Attorney Tom Quinn, and I'm happy to be here in Mansfield to discuss the issue of elder abuse. I've been here several times before. Happy to be here again. It's an important issue to me and our office, protecting the elderly, who are a precious commodity to us, who have given much to our communities. And in the latter stages of their lives, you should be able to enjoy it to the extent possible. Obviously, there's health issues involved with all of us, but we're focusing on protection, prevention, and prosecution. Happy to have Representative Elizabeth Poirier join us today, who I've gotten to know, respect, and like very much during my tenure as the Bristol County District Attorney the last 2.5 years plus. She's been a strong supporter of our office and also the elderly and important issues in your community. So thank you for being here. I became the DA about 2.5 years ago, and one of the first things that came to my attention, not that it wasn't there before, was the extent that there was attempted elder fraud, and in fact elder fraud on a large scale. There's several components to it. There is elder abuse, I should say, physical abuse, which is outrageous and is prosecuted. Unfortunately, it's at the hand of family members in many instances. Generally speaking, people don't just walk off the street and start assaulting someone they don't know. And it's a difficult predicament for our older folks, because if your grandson or son or daughter is physically abusing you or emotionally abusing you, it's tough to come to grips with. It's hurtful that someone who you love and have taken care of is doing this to you. But it's something that you shouldn't have to be exposed to. The problem is having it being brought to someone's attention. So what I've tried to do is go throughout Bristol County, which is the area I'm responsible for, to speak to groups such as this. I've been to every council on aging, I believe, in the county at least once, if not twice or 3 times, and will continue to do so, because it's a very important issue to me. We have the stealing that comes at the hands of family members, caretakers, and scams. The reason I'm going out to the Council on Aging is to educate and make people aware so that they cannot succumb to fraud, because unfortunately, once the money is taken from you, it's unlikely you're going to get it back. The hurt that's occurred, the psychological hurt and the financial hurt, especially if somebody is living close to the vest and money is taken from them, can't really be replaced, especially in some cases if people, based on their age, will pass away. I'll give you an example. Within the last month, we prosecuted an individual who took over the finances for an elderly gentleman, trusted friend, stole over $100,000 over a period of time. The $100,000 in part was earmarked for his grandson's college education. In the end, he passed away and was left with a nursing home debt. Now that's outrageous to me. This individual was late 50s, the defendant. And unfortunately, he was given probation. He should have been locked up, because there's got to be punishment and accountability for some of this conduct. So there's a gentleman who worked hard his whole life, saved money, grandson, all taken from him. Some order of restitution that most of them don't even pay back because they've blown the money is somewhat meaningless. So the point is, the prevention and education is critical. It's tougher with family members, and let me say also, there are many loving caregivers, family members, home health aides who are wonderful. but some aren't. That's the reality of it. Money brings out the worst in a lot of people. It's put to a lot of good use, but in many instances, because of the human condition and temptation, people lower themselves and, in many cases, ruin someone's lives. I mean, the stories are legion of money that's been taken in a variety of ways, family members, investments that have ruined people. So you have to be careful. And that's why I'm going out to educate, because if one person or 10 people are aware of it and don't get involved with the temptation of giving money or a scam, it's worth it. The other aspect is educating against scams. There are several prominent scams via the phone generally, and I've talked about it on numerous occasions. The IRS scam, where someone purporting to be an IRS representative calls up and says you owe money and you're going to be arrested or you're going to go to jail. That isn't the case, but it's alarming. I've said this in a number of places. My own father, a couple years ago, was calling me up saying, I have a terrible problem here, Tom. So I'm thinking he's saying I have a terminal illness. IRS has called, they want $1,000 or $2,000. So I told him, just call up and say, where are you calling from? And say the IRS doesn't communicate by phone. I then called him up a few days later and pretended to be the IRS. And he did what I asked him to do, which was a positive step. But people have turned over money out of fear. Hang the phone up. There is nobody there. Nobody's coming to arrest you. Feel free to call my office if that ever comes up. Another popular scam which preys on people's emotions is the grandparent scam. They'd call up and say your grandson or daughter has been in an accident or is in jail in Canada or Washington State or Arizona or something like that. Please deposit X amount of money, $1,000, send it to this fictitious address. And I've had several people come up to me and people tell me that they have fallen for that. And I don't criticize anybody for doing that. Your grandson isn't in custody. Your grandson hasn't been in an accident. The most you should do is hang up and call up your son or daughter and say, how are they doing? And they say, oh, they're fine. When I was in Florida about a year or so ago, read a big article. $5,000 was taken from a person by that means. Never would have gotten back except for the girlfriend of the thief who had a prior record turned him into the police. So, and there's a computer, they call up and say your computer needs to be fixed. That's another one. Here's the bottom line. If you don't know who's on the other end of the phone, hang it up. Now it may not seem like good manners, but it is. Anybody who's calling you, you know the number generally. I'm not saying not to answer the phone for a doctor's appointment, but you know who your doctor is. You know your daughter's number. I don't answer my home telephone. I have a cell phone. Unfortunately, a lot of people have it, but sometimes you have that availability on the TV. If you're watching it, the number pops up. So if it's a family member, you want to answer it. Other than that, they're numbers that you don't recognize that are calling to solicit money or steal money. And the solicitation is generally by known entities, whether it's the Red Cross or American Cancer, and a lot of that's done by mail. So giving money over the phone, I would discourage that in general. You're free to do that unless you've done it and there's a common practice, but don't answer the phone. You can always call back. You have an answering machine. Call the person back if it's a legitimate call. Most of mine, I'm getting calls all the time. I rarely answer my phone as a cell phone unless I recognize the number. Occasionally I slip up and do it because I might think it's somebody trying to call me that is business related. But if there's a hesitation on the other end of the line, because you're not getting the money back. You could call up Representative Pori and say, I've been swindled, and she could call my office. The phone numbers are disconnected. These fake numbers, these phones that quickly disappear. And there aren't the resources to do it. You can't do it. It involves interstate lines. So It's sad. It's sad that I'm sitting here having a talk about it, but it is widespread, as most people know. So over the phone, do not agree to any scams. I wouldn't, in person, if somebody's knocking at the door, at best, take the information and shoo them away. Think about what you're doing. The family member's a little more difficult because a grandson, granddaughter, daughter, there's obviously the blood and love relationship. Recently, we prosecuted a grandson for stealing from grandmother through coercion and intimidation. Had a drug problem, $40,000. Now, she loves him, I understand that, but that shouldn't stand if we can prove it. Sometimes you can't prove it, but it was brought to our attention. Whether you love him or not, you shouldn't have to live like that. Now, people give their money freely, and that's their choice, whether it's a good choice or not. But we, unfortunately, have had a number of cases of last year, the same thing, 40,000 New Bedford, in a New Bedford case, stealing from a grandmother, supporting a drug habit. Person ended up going down south. We went down, apprehended him, and he was held accountable for that. So I've created on the prosecution front, I think the prevention is more important to stop it, but as far as prosecution goes, I have created a financial crimes unit headed by an experienced attorney, and I've recently hired another attorney, and I've hired an investigator actually from this area, retired from the police department, Arthur Brillion, because these aren't easy cases to investigate. It involves, if it's a family member or bank records, it's not, these popular crimes, or, if there's an incident where there's a physical assault, it's pretty straightforward. Somebody saw it, they report it, and you see how the case plays out in court. But these cases involve learning about it, bank records, other investigation to see if there's a basis for a charge. So I'm proud of that because that is something real that is making a difference. We brought charges in a lot of cases that maybe wouldn't have been brought in the past. And it's people need to be held accountable in these situations if the circumstances warrant it. You may love the grandson, and they do in all cases, as they should, but you shouldn't have to live like that. And to give someone a blank check to steal from you is going to, if not ruin, certainly make the latter stages of their lives very unpleasant, especially the psychological effect. If you don't have the money and you're trying to, out of love, give the money to someone, grandchild or son or daughter. Some of the stuff is not criminal, it's just immoral. Taking advantage of someone, conning a family member into signing a house over, whether it's your mother. Many people have heard many stories across the country. But at some point, in some point, they will have to answer for that. So be careful of your financial resources. Again, many people provide loving and appropriate care, great companionship. They're very kind and patient, but many don't. So what I can say to you is that this continues to be a big issue. It's not me coming in 2 years ago and running around and saying this is a big issue and then falling away from it. It continues to be a priority, and as I said, I've created this unit that has been very productive and will continue to move forward the way we have with these cases, but continuing to get the message like this out in the community, in Mansfield, wherever it is, in Bristol County, because once again, prevention is much better than bringing a criminal prosecution that even if someone is held accountable, it's not in the end going to bring joy to the person who's the victim. So I'm happy to make this important issue of elder financial abuse a priority, and will continue to do so. Does anybody have any questions? I'd be happy to take them. Yes.
District Attorney Quinn, I have to say that you have been extremely responsive to this issue. I remember when you first became the district attorney, I invited you actually to come here to Mansfield, and you did, because I had been involved in a case of elder abuse when I first became elected, and it's horrifying to see it up close. This situation was physically abusive, and you were so responsive and so quick to become engaged in this issue. And I just want to thank you, because as much as we don't like to think it is pervasive, particularly in the elder community. And it's so important that you have engaged this whole division to take care of it and look into it and investigate. And I just want to thank you for doing that. It's extremely important.
Well, I appreciate that. I agree with you, and it knows no boundaries. In a similar way, not exactly the same, we have this drug scourge that's going on that has been exacerbated the last 3 or 4 years. That knows no boundaries. It might be more prevalent in some of the cities, more populated areas. Elder abuse knows no boundaries. Imagine what goes on in Florida on a regular basis because of the number of senior citizens and the number of people that are there, 20 million or so. So I think it is nice to announce things, but in the end, it's sort of the dirty work that gets it done in any area you're in. It's the day-to-day work on a particular issue that makes a difference. And hopefully we are making a difference. I can't say that people are not doing it, not abusing the elderly in various capacities because we're doing this, but certainly it's out there. I was on radio in Fall River talking about that Friday, and as I said, if we investigate these cases and find that criminal charges are appropriate, we'll bring the charges and certainly consider the victim's feelings, but it is tough to say in the end that there should not be some form of accountability when you're stealing or assaulting. But the financial fraud and abuse is certainly more common. Thank the Lord. But you have family members that might engage in some physical abuse. But in the end, that can be difficult because if you don't want to prosecute the case, it's a little tougher to go forward. But as long as there's some accountability if the person needs help or treatment. Because think of the torment. If you have a family member you're taking care of, whether it's son, daughter, grandson, they can cause you a lot of anguish, and you're just doing it out of the love of your heart. Now, I can't say precisely how you should deal with it. Each situation's different. But when it gets to criminal matters and we get involved and investigate, we do know how to deal with it. So I think, again, this is a very important issue that may not be that attractive to everybody because it's not the traditional case, again, that you're investigating. It takes time and perseverance and patience. And I'm even putting more resources into the unit, looking at the budget because there are so many cases. You need a lot of person power to investigate these cases. There's so many of them. Anybody else have any comments or questions while we're here? I'd be happy to hear you. Yes, ma'am.
As you're making this awareness to us, is there anything you can recommend that senior centers do on an individual basis to alert all their seniors on a regular basis that they're there to help as well?
Well, I see the senior events here in their newsletter. I think education through a newsletter would be one form. I'm sure that my understanding is many senior centers do that. There are individual cases sometimes that they get involved in. They might see somebody who's here in distress. But I think we have information that we bring that's over there to all of our events. Certainly can be provided here and is in many cases. So I think any senior who, through the Senior Center Council on Aging, can get our information, and if the center has additional information, but you need to review it and be vigilant. Because human weakness, we all have that, but when money's put in front of you, it could be $1. But once people start down that slope, sometimes there's no turning back until grave harm is caused. So I think by providing information, working with us, that's what we're trying to do, make the effort to provide this educational information so you will not become the victim of fraud. And then outright stealing from someone that you know, either, again, if it's a family member or someone in your house legitimately, or a contractor. I mean, I would not be agreeing to anything at the door with anybody. I mean, whatever your circumstances are, many elderly people are alone. Widowers, more vulnerable. It's a little different if the husband or wife is saying, close the door, don't do it. You've got support, you've got encouragement. I could fall for it too myself, maybe, in some circumstances. So it's not just the elderly. The IRS has placed numerous calls to me and members of my staff. So they're expanding their operation. But those are startling calls, so one can see how you can get sucked in, if you will, to maybe giving some money. So I hope that answers it, but I think there's information here. In some respects, it's common sense, because what you need to do is you should not be talking to anybody on the phone that you do not know, unless you want to talk to the Red Cross or some other agency like that. That's generally not how you fix your house, accepting a cold call. It's generally not how you fix your computer. How does someone know your computer's broken that's calling you up? That in and of itself should show it. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of being rude. Hang the phone up. I mean, during the election cycles, in particular, a big state election or a national election, they call you up, right? You hang up at some point? Okay. If you get a call from me, don't hang up. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But at some point, if not right from the beginning, people don't like those calls, right? Or they don't answer them. So I'm not telling how you should react to that. That is part of people's way of getting a message out. But if you're quick not to answer some political call, I'd be even more vigilant in not answering a call from someone that you do not know. Nothing good's going to come of that. So that's what you got to do. You got to be firm and strong on the phone. A lot of these calls may happen during the day, so I'm not home during the day generally. I might be there a little bit in the morning, so people are there, they answer the phone. Maybe at home, so don't do it. If your daughter's calling, you have a cell phone, she's going to call your cell phone. If you don't answer the phone and think it's her, you're free to call back on your phone, and she'll say, no, I didn't call you. So that's what I would say in answer to that. Information here, if there's a problem, you could talk to somebody here. If it is a serious matter, they could refer it to the police or our office. And you just need to be vigilant when it comes to money.
How do you deal with the, I'll call it reverse elder abuse? And my sister lives in Norfolk County, so we met in, she had an elderly neighbor who had a son. And every time the son came to the door, she told him to go away, she couldn't call the cops. So he stopped coming to the house. Anyway, last summer she passed away. And it wasn't until the mailman realized that the mailbox was full, and then he called the police, and the poor woman had been dead for 3 weeks. And my sister happened to be talking to him. He was beside himself, and he said, I didn't know what to do. Every time I came to the house, she threatened to call the police. If I'm out here and the cops come down, they're going to side with her and not me. So he didn't come. Is there any way that a family member who is dealing with this sort of dementia can go to your office or the police department and say, look, this is, or even come here, and this is what I'm dealing with? I mean, it's just,
I think so. I think you come in, you go to Bristol Elder Services to start the process going. I mean, if the person has dementia and says, I'm calling the police, that's a little different situation, because in the end, that would be explained away.
yeah.
But I think you have a lot of cases like that. I mean, it's difficult. Someone was just mentioning to me yesterday, something's going on at this house. A truck showed up at 10 o'clock at night to take out property. Now, that may be viewed as fishy, to use that term, but I think you have to have something substantive, but because the authorities, you need something to go on. You can't just say, well, I think something's going on there. But, you know, maybe a well-being check would start the process going.
I think, if I could add to that.
Sure.
Every community has a council on aging. And you'd be surprised how many people in the community, those who are here every day working, know or have heard about. And that's a great resource as a first step. And then if they go to the police or the district attorney's office and ask somebody to investigate, but you have a tremendous resource here. And a lot of caseworkers who are very familiar with what to do, who to call, and what the signs and symptoms are. And lots of times that's where the elder issues generate from. And they know who to reach out to. I talked about the case that I was involved with. That came out of the senior center. And it was very important, and it rose to very high levels. And I think created some better solutions, some better ways to handle things. So this is right here in your town, and everybody has one. And many of you who come here know a lot of the seniors that don't come. So there's always some way of finding out.
Well, that's the whole big thing we discussed at the board meeting and stuff, is reaching out to
Yes,
those who aren't here.
yes,
And I brought up at the board meeting last week, senior centers have a bad image. And the fact that, and I've talked to people who are in their early 60s and say, oh, you gotta come to the COA, and I get, oh my God, I'm not ready for that place. You know?
well, they don't know what they're missing.
Yeah, I know, and that's, we're talking,
Because there's a lot of
we're gonna
fun
start
going
working
on
on
here.
it this year with Debbie, so
Yeah.
I felt it, and we're gonna start working on it to somehow change our image. And, you know,
Yeah.
and that's not an easy thing to do.
No, I agree.
But I would agree with what Representative Poirier just said. This is a good place to start. They're familiar with the issues. It's not going to be a state of shock. I mean, you can't just call up the police and say, I think something's going on there. I mean, they have a lot of things going on. They need a basis to move forward. But this could be the start of it by coming here. I've been here at least 3 times, if not more. I would encourage people to come. I think it's a very comfortable place, an enjoyable place. To recreate and have companionship. And if there are issues, this is a good place to start. Anything else?
Well, I have kind of solved my home phone because I have an answering machine that goes with it. And I just say, we do not accept calls on this telephone due to the annoying calls from telemarketers. If you need to leave a message, please do so.
That's very good.
So
That
I
is.
don't even bother answering any.
No, you're smart, because they will leave a message, and
If it's family.
yes.
Of course.
Family will call my cell phone anyway,
Right.
but,
I think there you have it right there. That's the way to do it, because again, rarely are any of these cases of any substance. Family knows your cell phone if you have it. Again, if you don't have a cell phone and you feel it's critical to answer the phone, at least have an answering machine, because right after they hang up, you can listen to the message without any pressure. So That's what I mean by, I don't want to say common sense, but I mean, because people can be jolted, but that's a practical step that makes a lot of sense. There's no need to be answering your phone in the morning. Who's calling? It's nobody you really want to talk to most of the time.
And many of us, and it's a great safety thing, is you have a phone on the nightstand next to your bed. And in the middle of the night, if you smell smoke or hear something, or you can bang back. The other side of it is every now and then you get somebody call at 10 or 11 or 5 or 6, and usually when the phone rings at that hour, there's something wrong in the family. And without thinking, you reach over, grab it, and hello, and then...
It's not the family.
Yeah.
I got a call at 3 in the morning a few weeks ago. My wife said, answer the phone. I don't even remember what it was, but my nice little night's sleep was ruined. But yeah, I mean, if someone's calling at 3 in the morning, I can't even see the numbers on the phone. They're so small. So that you could look, you know, when it kicks. So I can't even see who's calling. So I guess I might be stuck answering it, but maybe they think we're in a different time zone.
Could be calling from a
Different time zone.
The other side of the world.
From what I understand, that has become kind of futile. I've heard a number of people say, I'm on the no-call list, and it doesn't work. It's unfortunate. You can, you know, Eric has some information, but I think the simple thing is not to answer the phone, and I know that sounds a little unpleasant, but I have to deal with it myself. I mean, with the advent of cell phones, the home phone landline has become less significant, unless that's all you have. And if that's all you have, but you have an answering machine, if somehow if they don't have an answering machine, they contact your local, you know, if you wanted to get it, if it was a financial issue, I'd certainly help out with that if it was, you know, necessary and appropriate. But I'm sorry, I think they may be out of luck because of the technology and whatever. These people have access to all these numbers now. And they never leave. You don't have many messages, do you, from the person calling from Pakistan? They don't leave a message. I'm being a little sarcastic, but I mean, the person calling from Pakistan or Canada is not leaving a message. So there's nobody to call back if you don't answer the phone. You know, they had that saying many years ago with the war on drugs, just say no. Don't answer the phone. If you do, hang it up. That's the mindset you have to have. To engage these people, whether they're calling from Pakistan or wherever, nothing, especially the longer you stay on the line, psychologically you might say something just to get rid of them. You know, the longer, oh, well, man, you know, and if it's okay, here it is. And it's not just our older folks, but it's, I could be subject, you know, do it, and others. So if you are the victim of a scam, I mean, you're not going to like it, but just use it as an example of what not to do in the future. Because it's not even worth...
Just a lesson that you...
Yeah, but the lesson you and many other people have. Imagine the stories that are out there, and I've just highlighted a couple of them. In one particular case in this county, very briefly, the woman, nice woman, was in the audience. She came up and told me, when it got the call, wasn't going to, finally fell for it, went to the local pharmacy to get a money order of $1,000 to send it to, but she was crying, and the clerk was nice, said, what's the matter? And finally said, no, that's a scam, and stopped it. So that's good, but she's prepared to give $1,000. Nice woman sitting right in the back there, and last year, I think. So it happens. Just try to avoid getting sucked in, because if I lost $1,000, that would be, I wouldn't like it, and that would be on my mind. If it's something, and I would think most people would feel the same way. It's only money, but it may matter to you for, you know, your living expenses, and so just be vigilant. Don't have to be crazy, but nothing good comes on the phone. From someone calling that you do not know, and whether it's Walmart or whatever it is, you want something at Walmart, you can go online or you can go into the store. So, Yeah, no, but but it's all right. I mean, these things, you know, but, you know, just don't let it happen again. It's not, people aren't, you know, foolish for doing it. These, you know, people, they're a good salesman, right? Selling legitimate, no, some have that gift. Get you over the, and in that same vein, that's what they're doing, you know, once they get you and they keep pushing, you want to get rid of them, you're there. I mean, you don't, if people have a sense of manners and values, they might be hesitant to hang up on somebody. They might be hesitant to cut somebody off. Cut them off. Phones, I'll say it for the last time, nothing good will come from you talking to somebody who you do not know. So, as they say in some cease and desist, if you want to answer it, hang it up. I wouldn't answer it. Call back whoever's calling you if you have the answering machine, if it in fact is a real call. And there's the best advice here, what she's doing. She doesn't answer the phone, she has the message, and guess what? You're not going to get scammed. So I'm happy to be here again. I think we'll wrap it up, but just on those points, this is, again, an important issue. We're doing what we can to protect our seniors who, again, have done much for our community and deserve to be protected. And I want to thank this senior center and all the senior centers for providing positive and healthy activities for our seniors. Thank you.